Efendim, üçüncü konuşmacımız ThreatStream'in EMEA Operasyon Direktörü Jonathan Martin. ThreatStream, bilgisayarlar tarafından otomatik olarak tüketilebilir istihbarat sağlayan firmalardan bir tanesi. Öğlen başladığımızdan bu yana dinlediğiniz oturumlarla karşılaştırdığımızda oldukça daha teknik bir problem ve onun çevresinde oldukça daha fazla teknik ayrıntıyla bir sunum gerçekleştiriyor olacak. Beni son dönemde en çok heyecanlandıran teknolojilerden bir tanesi, büyük ya da çok büyük kuruluşlardan bir tanesiyseniz, banka telko sınıfındaki kuruluşlardan bir tanesiyseniz, 7/24 güvenlik izlemesi operasyon merkezi işletmekle ilgili kaygılarınız varsa, ThreatStream'in çalıştığı alanın vazgeçilmezlerden bir tanesi olacağını düşünüyorum. Jonathan, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Very much. Thanks, Burak. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me just do the most important thing and open my bottle of water first. I was at a conference a couple of years ago in the Middle East somewhere. I went up on stage and I couldn't open my bottle of water. It had a cap rather than a screw, so I just need to make sure that I can do that first of all. Okay, thank you for coming this afternoon. As it says, I'm the EMEA Operations Director for ThreatStream. We're an American company based just outside of Palo Alto, but I'm based in the UK, looking after operations here. So I'm going to spend the next 25-30 minutes or so talking about threat intelligence and how we approach threat intel. We take a very different approach to threat intel. I'm going to start off just by talking a little bit about what it is, just so that everybody is on the same page, some of the challenges around intel, why our approach is very different from a lot of the other companies, and then just a single slide on who we are. So first of all, what is intelligence? A lot of people, it's a relatively new topic, and I've had to make some notes here as well. 2 or 3 years ago, it used to be just a list of bad IPs, bad domains, sites that you knew you shouldn't really go to, and it was quite easy to actually integrate that into security technology like firewalls. But the whole malware industry has grown so dramatically in the last few years that we have to have much greater detail in how we actually detail the types of sites. So you can see here I've just got a few things listed as what types of intel there are, but there's all sorts of things. I'll say I've made a list. So there's things like APT domains and IPs is a pretty obvious one. Data exfiltration, site compromised email accounts. I was talking to a company here in Istanbul yesterday. We did a quick search on the database for any intel relating to them, and sure enough, we found a compromised email account from them. There's DDoS sites, data exfiltration site, exploit kits, hacking tools, malware, paste sites like pastebin, sinkholes, Tor exit nodes. There's all sorts of different types of intelligence nowadays. And we need to understand, we need to have much more detail about these sites and be able to treat them accordingly so that we don't just completely block access to a site. It may be a perfectly legal site that we need to get to, or people in the business need to get to. There may only just be one small URL that actually has malware in it, so we don't want to block the whole site. So we need to have much greater detail about how we deal with threat intel. And it comes from all sorts of different places, which I'll talk about in a moment. So these are some of the challenges. There are lots of threat intel vendors out there these days. There's a security show in the UK in June called the Info Security Show. It's the biggest one in Europe, pretty much. And I can't remember how many vendors there were there, but I reckon 20 to 25% of them all said that they had a threat intel feed. It's kind of, this year's buzz phrase, I guess. But the problem for a customer, for people like yourselves, is it's really hard to use threat intel. It's really hard to operationalize it. If you've got a SIM or a next-gen firewall or an IR tool, you may be able to take one threat intel feed in, but that actually gives you very little coverage. As I mentioned in the panel, for those who were there, that may only give you sort of 10% coverage of all the intelligence vendors out there. You don't know how old this intelligence is. If you just take one feed in, you've generally got no clue how old the intelligence is. You kind of trust the vendor that it's up to date, but you don't know. It could be 5 minutes old, it could be 5 weeks old, it could be 5 months old. The site could be completely inactive, but you don't know that. Unless you're a threat intel vendor is telling you how recent this stuff is, you have no clue. Generally, intelligence providers will just give you the intel and go, there you go, Mr. Customer, it's yours. You have to work out how to use it. You have to work out how to get it into your SIM or your next-gen firewall. We're not going to help you. That's kind of your problem. So there's no way of automating it. You don't know how good the data is, I mentioned that. Vendors will often sell it by the pound. It's a bit of an English expression. They'll say, we've got millions of indicators. And you go, that's fantastic. It must be good if they've got millions, mustn't it? It could be 99% could be of no interest at all. There may only be 1% that's good. How do you know what's good and what's bad without some kind of scoring ability? So there's lots of things that you can get from a threat intel vendor that actually makes your life much harder rather than much easier. We're trying to make it easier. Here's a typical process that one of our customers goes through. This is their internal SOC and SIM team. So once they actually collect the intelligence, it's a 7-step process to actually get value out of that intelligence. It takes 2 separate teams. You can see there's a threat team and an ops team. There's multiple stages to go through. They have to analyze the data, get it into the right format, put it on a SharePoint site, wait for the operational team to pick it up, implement it into the SIM, and finally they get some value back out of it. And that just takes too long. You know, in the sort of worst case scenario, it can take this company up to 14 days to actually get value. So it's very possible that that intelligence is actually worthless by now. 14 days later, the site could have gone, you know, the compromised accounts could have disappeared. They may be getting false positives out of it, and it's actually of no value. So what we're trying to do is to make this very easy, to make them, or enable them to actually get value out of this in 2 steps. They paste they input the data into our system, and that's all they need to do. So, as I said, we are not just a threat intel vendor. We're trying to take a very different approach to making your usage of intelligence much, much easier. So, these are some of our capabilities. I know that this is actually a really hard slide to read. It's actually quite dark. I'm guessing that quite a few of you can't read what's in the graphics, so I'll just concentrate on what's on here. We want this to scale to huge proportions. Today, there are a lot of threat intelligence vendors, suppliers. Tomorrow, there will be even more. Next month, even more. It's an area that's only going to grow. So we need to be able to do this at scale. There will be very specific industry vertical intelligence feeds that you are going to have in your security environment. How can you do that easily? There will be a lot of noise in the intelligence. You have to understand that maybe 80% of it will be noise, but that 20% is key to what you do, and you have to be able to differentiate between the two. You have to know what is high quality and what is low quality. In terms of operationalizing it, we have to be able to act on this very quickly. As I just mentioned, the data goes stale very quickly, so to take 14 days to action this is way too long. It's got to be within 14 minutes, probably. You want some context, you want to be able to understand. Are there any security analysts here, any SOC analysts? In the room now? Okay. I actually feel very sorry for you because you have an amazing task of having to keep up to date with such a fast-changing world. So we want to give you that context. We want to give you as much information about a particular attack or a particular actor or campaign. We want you to have one place to go for all that intelligence and not have to go and search the internet yourselves for it. The more we can educate you, the faster you can actually respond to this. We want you to be able to share intelligence as well. So in terms of the whole collaboration side, Attackers share intelligence all the time. Ofer this morning from HP referred to, thinking like a bad guy. Well, we actually have to act like the bad guys to an extent. We have to start sharing intelligence. They share intelligence all the time. There are lots of sites on the web you can go and find out how to actually do an attack. We need to start sharing intelligence as well. Companies are often very scared of doing this. They see, they want to make sure that it's done anonymously. They want to make sure none of their intellectual property or their internal secrets are actually leaked out. They want to be able to do this in a very safe, controlled way. And so, that is absolutely one of the things we set out to do, is to enable companies to share intelligence with other companies that they are happy to share intelligence with. We call it like-minded in English, and people of the same mind or the same type of industry. So this is where we want to get people to. So where does our intelligence come from? It comes from a lot of different places. We don't just take one feed and give it to you. We take intelligence from a huge range of different sources. There's about 160 or so open source feeds. We have our own labs team that put about 20 different feeds into the platform. We talked about collaboration between organizations. We've got a built-in sandbox that people can just push a piece of, a suspected piece of malware into. We'll analyze it for you, extract the indicators out of it, put it into the platform, go through our scoring process, tell you everything that we know about this indicator, push it down to your security platform. We're the developers of something called Modern HoneyNet. I don't know if anybody's ever used MHN. It's been around for quite a few years now. So we are the company that actually looks after MHN. There's about 13,000 deployments out in the world. So we actually get information from those HoneyNets pushed into our platform as well. We get government advisories as well from a number of different government agencies around the world. That comes in various formats. It could just be text. It could be machine readable as well. But the goal is we will take all that information into our platform called Optic. We remove any duplicates. It's very possible that we've had the same piece of intelligence multiple times. We don't want to send you that. We want to remove the duplicates. We want to remove any false positives as much as we can. And we want to score the intelligence as well. We want to tell you how bad we think it is. So we give it a threat score. We give it a confidence value as well. We say we are 90% sure that this piece of intelligence is bad. Okay? Or we may be only 40% sure. We maybe don't have enough information in our model to actually be 100% confident. So we'll tell you how confident we are that this intelligence is bad, which is great because it means down at your SIM, at ArcSight or Splunk or Q1 or whichever SIM you're using, you can now begin to write rules that say if the confidence level is greater than a certain value, say 75, 80%, and it's a very high severity, and an internal machine is talking out to that, then I absolutely want to know about that. I want to know now because it looks like one of my internal machines has been breached. We've also got a bunch of commercial partners as well. So going back to the idea that we take all this information in, we do some magic to it, and we send you one stream of data. The nice thing is nothing at your end has to change. Nothing at your SIM or next-gen firewall or whatever tool you're using changes. You can add in as many of these commercial feeds as you want as well. So we've done a deal with all these commercial feed providers to actually give you access to their data as well. So same thing, you can take this information through us into your security platform. Nothing has to change at your end. We want to make your life much, much easier to actually consume threat intelligence. So what are you going to do with the data when you get it? So these are sort of SIM use cases. I've got a slide in a couple of slides' time that actually talks about all the different type of products we actually integrate with. But actually, in terms of use cases, this is the type of thing that we're looking. So if you see on the on the far right, these are the types of logs that we want to actually correlate with our threat intelligence. So it's things like web traffic from a proxy or a firewall, general HTTP traffic. We want email traffic, email logs. We want to see who's emailing out to who, because that's a good indicator of traffic going in and out. DNS logs are perfect for this. Any piece of malware that actually gets onto your machine, the first thing it's going to do is actually call home. So there will almost certainly be DNS traffic out to those known bad sites. Proxy firewall, IPS traffic is interesting again. Just traffic off the network. See who's talking to who, what packets are going back and forth. So take those sort of logs into your SIM. If you're an established SIM user, you're probably doing that anyway. So that's a great place to start. So we can just come along, very easily add our indicators in. We generally just update a bunch of lists on the SIM. My background is with ArcSight, so within ArcSight they're referred to as active lists. But watch lists in general, if you think you have, a list of bad URLs, a list of MD5 hashes, a list of bad email addresses, bad IPs, bad domains. That's what we're updating in the SIM, constantly maintaining these list of known bad indicators, which we can then very easily correlate within the SIM to say, I've spotted this particular internal machine talking to this known bad IP, or I've seen an MD5 of a particular piece of malware on an internal machine over here. I mentioned in the panel this morning, and I'll repeat it again. The only reason why we have this incredible 205-day time to spot a breach is because we don't see the traffic talking out. That piece of malware will have been talking out to its C2 site almost certainly from day one. It may have only sent one ping out to the C2 site on day one, and they may well have gone to sleep for a while, but it will talk out. That's when we need to actually spot the data, and we can't do that unless we have the external information, the external intelligence that tells us where the bad sites are. SIMs are great at collecting internal logs. They are incredibly good at that. You can push any type of data into something like Splunk. It'll just suck in any data. But if it's only internal data, you're only seeing half the picture. You can't know which of those internal machines have actually been breached and are talking out to these known bad sites. So you absolutely have to have an external threat intel feed pushed into that platform as well. So I talked about the scoring process. Basically, what we're doing, we are part funded by Google. We're based in California. We're a Google Ventures-backed company. So we've actually got a whole load of technology from Google, which has enabled us to build this machine learning model that we put in a whole number of inputs into it to enable us to identify things like false positives. We also get feedback from the SIMs themselves as well. So if you imagine we are pushing information into the SIM, we can also get a loop back from the SIM back into us to tell us things about false positives in the SIM. So we want to constantly learn about the environment we're being deployed in, what's working, what's not working. All the time, we want to improve the quality of the intelligence we're giving to you. Sites, I mentioned the sort of scoring that we give. It's a value from 0 to 100. We also have things like the time we first saw this particular indicator and the last time we saw it and how active it is. So if we only saw it once 6 months ago, that's quite interesting. Maybe we actually begin to lower the threat score for that particular site. If we're seeing it constantly occurring in other streams, it's obviously very active, then we will increase the score. But all the time we're feeding the information down to the SIM, and the rules in the SIM are taking care of that. Yeah, decaying. So decaying is all about how long do you keep an indicator active in your system. I talked about if something isn't active for 6 months, then maybe it's actually not that interesting. But it may suddenly change. It may suddenly start to be active again. That may be part of the whole malware is actually to sit around do nothing for a long period of time, so it doesn't get identified. So we build all these things into our model to actually score it and then constantly update the SIM with exactly what's happening. I mentioned right at the beginning, one of the challenges was that threat intel vendors just tend to give you the intel and say, there you go, Mr. Customer, it's up to you now to use it. We don't think that's a very good idea. I'm not the only ex-ArcSight person in the company. There's actually quite a few of us, but we've also got ex-Splunk and RSA Net Witness and McAfee people as well. And one of the things that we all understood was that when we were selling SIM, it was actually quite hard for customers to actually implement SIMs. They were often, SIMs are complex things. There's no getting away from it. There is a lot of work. They are incredibly powerful, incredibly clever. But you do often need to understand how they work and actually how to update them. And people are often a little bit concerned about making major changes to their SIM. So we thought, we have a wealth of SIM experience as well in our company. We'll provide the content, the rules, the reports, the dashboards for the customer, so that from day one, if they buy our product from day one, they get value out of it. Everything they need to identify the attacks is all there, pushed down to the SIM, active, so the minute you start using this, you're actually getting value, getting results out of it. It's not a case of you having to go and spend weeks and months developing content. We will do that for you. You can absolutely write your own. You can take our data and do whatever you want with it. But if you want to get value from day one, the content is there. Sticks and taxi are becoming the de facto standard for sort of talking between threat intel products or products that actually use threat intel. Has anybody heard of sticks and taxi here? It's still a very young standard. Okay, that's kind of what I expected. It's going to be important in the next few years as a way of everybody being able to exchange threat intel information easily. But don't worry too much about it. Okay. In terms of integration, I mentioned that we have a lot of integration. We started off just doing SIM, and so it was people like ArcSight, Splunk, Logarithm, QRadar, I'm sure there's another one somewhere, Nitro down at the bottom there. We realized that SIM was important. But actually, you can use threat intel anywhere that you have to make security decisions in your organization. So it's things like titanium and carbon black. That's actually very interesting. If you're doing endpoint detection, you want to know if there's a specific MD5 on that endpoint. Well, we've got the list of known MD5 hashes, so we can push that down to things like titanium and carbon black. Info blocks are here, perfect place to actually do threat detection. Maltego is a visualization tool. I don't know if anybody's ever worked with Maltego. A great way of being able to visualize threats. Cloudera is interesting. People more and more are building their own. Large organizations are building their own security platform based on Cloudera, based on a big data Hadoop cloud. That's fine. We can just push the data into that, and you can use it exactly how you want, rather than having to use a SIM. So lots of scope for actually integrating intelligence into a complete range. I think there's 15 or 16 products in there. That is only going to grow. I mentioned the collaboration very briefly. People want to share intelligence. So we have a way of doing that. We have something called trusted circles. The idea here is a bit like Google+. You can create your own circle of companies. You choose who you want to invite. You can apply to join another trusted circle as well. So, and it's up to the owner of that circle whether they allow you to join as well. The idea is being that you want to share intelligence across different organizations, across other financial organizations, other telcos, other oil and gas, whatever it is. You can just click a button, you get a really hot piece of intelligence somehow. You think it would be a good neighborly thing to do to share that intelligence across people you trust. And of course, you will hopefully get intelligence back from them. But you can just click a button, that intelligence gets shared, gets pushed out to those organizations in the right format, in the format that they need it in. So if you're using ArcSight and they're using Splunk and somebody else is using Q1 or Tanium, it doesn't matter. Everybody receives that intelligence immediately in the format that they need to. So suddenly we can all react much, much faster to our threats. So it's not just about machine-readable intelligence, though. Everything I've sort of spoken about until now is about machine-readable. It's stuff that you push around to your security platform. But a large part of a SOC analyst or a security analyst's job is understanding what a threat is, who are the actors, what is this campaign, what are their TTPs, how do they do things. And so we have these things called threat intelligence packages, and these are like big articles on latest threats, the latest intelligence. So it could be, one of the high-profile ones was the Ashley Madison one of a few weeks ago. We have a whole range of intelligence on that. We've got a whole range of things on a Microsoft Word zero-day vulnerability that was discovered recently. We want the analyst to be able to do a search for a particular vulnerability or a particular actor or a threat and be able to have all that information they need at their fingertips. They could go and search the internet for it, and it would take them quite a while to find it. But isn't it better if we do it all first? We have companies that actually push the data into the platform, and it's all there ready and waiting for the analyst to understand the threat, to understand how serious it is, and even take action. We'll do things like provide snort rules and Yara SIGs so that they can just take everything they need to actually combat the threat, push it out to their IPS, done. So that they would get an alert in, say, the SIM. They can actually go and investigate it on our platform, grab the snort rules they need to block it, push that down to the IPS. They're done within minutes of actually discovering this. I mentioned briefly we have our own labs team. They contribute a lot of information, both the machine readable and all that human readable intelligence I've just been talking about. They are incredibly clever guys. We don't let them out too often. We keep them in dark rooms most of the time working away. But they provide a lot of intelligence, a lot of high quality information into the platform. How you deploy this, you can have it pure cloud, so everything stays in the cloud. That tends to be fine in the US, less so this side of the Atlantic. So we can actually do a hybrid model as well, where we actually have the public data in the cloud. Any of your private intelligence stays local to you. So your own personal, your own private intelligence never leaves your organization, just so that everybody is happy then. So that's what the product does. One slide about the company. There is one slide, Mark, that is. One slide about the company. So we're about three years old. I'll say based in Palo Alto in California. I'm based in the UK. I mentioned the sort of team of experienced security execs, especially around ArcSight. Our CEO is a guy called Hugh Manzi. He was the guy who founded ArcSight back in 2000. So we do have a big heritage of SIM technology. And those are the three things that I want you to remember about us. We do threat aggregation from lots of different places. We integrate into your existing enterprise, making your life much easier, and we enable you to share intelligence across companies that you're happy to share with. Any questions?
Thank you, Jonathan. Jonathan için soru var mı Threat Stream için? Thank you.
Thank you.